I think we were on point last week, as the kids say, on fleek.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
good, I guess.
Yeah. What do you mean good? That's good for me because it saved me a lot of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I think about.
Saving me time. That's right. Welcome, friends and family, to another episode of The Illustrious Gentleman. That's a podcast by my comic book BFF, Scott Godleski over there, and myself, comic book artist Ryan Cody. You can pick up our books, Copperhead, Family Tree, Dark and Bloody on Amazon or wherever your comic book shop is. All the good comic shops carry them, even some of the bad ones.
Yeah.
Follow the show on Twitter and Instagram, TIG_show. All the past episodes are available at anchor.fm/TIGShow or at TIGShow.com. But yeah, we're on iTunes, Spotify. I guess they call it Apple Podcasts now, Google Play Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, everywhere. Wherever you listen to the show, leave us a review, tell your friends, and visit patreon.com/TIGShow to always get early episodes, early video versions of the episodes, as well as some other cool shit. Speaking of comic book stores that carry comics, I just read yesterday, and I don't want to diss them because I don't know anybody involved, but I'm you know, some people just don't like certain things. Could be other people, could be whatever, whatever.
Me.
Yeah, you're everyone's quotient is different and everyone's ability to handle certain things are different. I hate people who vape. And I guess I don't hate them. I hate the fact that they vape. One of my best friends vapes. And I'm not going to out him on this program, but it's always like a clout. He makes a meal out of it every time he does it. You know what I'm saying? You know, the thing he vapes out of is like the size of like a small boom box with like a straw attached to it. It's silly.
Right.
Yeah.
And it looks ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just like it's I feel like I should be putting on like some Junko jeans and like dancing, at like an Insane Clown Posse shirt or concert or something.
I almost kind of get like the e-cig thing, like the blue or whatever, that looks like a cigarette, the end lights up. It's like I don't know, it's some Blade Runner shit. Mm-hmm. But then this thing that looks like it fell out of the back of like a special pickup truck that drives around the neighborhoods and just picks shit out of people's garbage.
Yeah, every time I'm hanging out with my buddy and he vapes, it looks like this. Like it's this large.
I thought the whole point of actually like smoking was to look cool. Right.
So speaking of looking cool, there's a new comic shop in the Valley in Phoenix. It's in Mesa, but it's on Gilbert Road. So I think it's on the Mesa Gilbert border. And it's called Vapes and Capes. And they sell comics, vape supplies, and anime.
Okay, so it's kind of like Gotham City that does coffee and comics.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought vaping was kind of the same as smoking is taboo now. Don't the little like aluminum particles or something fuck up your lungs?
I'm sure it does. I mean, I wish it would be something that's so taboo it's done behind closed doors. That's what I wish. Because you're always behind those trucks that it looks like the vape machine fell off the back of, where you just see the smoke coming out because they cracked their window just like an inch, and then they just force the smoke out. Yeah. Like they just want to match their shitty like pipes that bellow out the diesel fumes and stuff. They want to match that with their mouths.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, I don't get it. There's nicotine in vapes, right? Vapes? Vaping?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the science behind it. I guess it's supposed to be healthier because you're not getting all the tar and stuff that comes with a cigarette. You're just getting the nicotine. And there are studies that say nicotine by itself is actually can be beneficial to brain functions and stuff like that. But you're still getting.
That's what nicotine says.
Yeah, that's what Big Nick says. But you're still getting like the burning vapor in your lungs, which I don't think is good for. I don't think hot vapor of any sort is good to inhale. But I'm not a pulmonologist. I'm not a pulmonary doctor.
Whatever. I guess if it's your thing,
right?
Do it by yourself.
And what will surprise some listeners is I'm not a doctor at all in anything.
I don't believe that.
Except I do have a PhD in being rad. Speaking of being rad,
Crickets.
today's beer, I got there's a new Voodoo Ranger on the market. So I tracked it down.
That's rad.
It's called a Higher Plane IPA Hazy Imperial. So it's not that little wussy 7.5% Voodoo Ranger that they seem to be stuck with. This is an 8.5%, which again, I don't think bumping it up 1%, you should be able to put Imperial in the name. There should be a governing body that decides at what point double, triple Imperial can be added to
the
beer
IPA
titles.
Council.
Yeah. The IPAC, the IPAC. But it does have the cool new. See, he's like a monk. He's like a pilot monk.
Okay.
Got like a hemp thing that's supposed to be like a lotus, but I think it's a. I don't think it's a hemp, but what am I thinking about? It's like a beer. What do they put in beer? It's not hemp. Sometimes it's hemp. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's a.
Okay. Yeah.
What's that thing they put in beer? I drink enough of it. Hop. It's a hop. So it's a glowing hop on the can that's supposed to be like a lotus flower.
No.
Yeah. Okay. He's like that guy that John C. Reilly killed at the beginning of the Godzilla reboot movie when they landed on the island together. Kind of dressed like that. But yeah, I'm excited to try it. I saw it at my local grocer, and it was $10.99, and I'm like, I'm not paying $11 for that 6-pack. And then I stopped at the Chevron, and it was $9.99, and I said, I am paying $9.99 for that 6-pack. So I have some Beer Advocate Theater. It's kind of long, but I figure we got nothing but time, right?
No, I got my phone.
Okay. This is from Hop Theology from South Dakota, who has just an insane psychopathic governor. But here it goes. Hop Theology. Crack of the can and a semi-hard pour at 45 degrees yields a lemon yellow body that is ultra hazy indeed. In fact, it's the haziest beer I've seen. Not juicy, not 100% opaque, just hazy, like fog over water hazy. I love it when beers are accurate to their name. Creamy head of one finger, leaving lace as it recedes to a small ring. Aroma brings a big name. Industrial beer smell forward. Definitely not brewed in small quantities. You know what I'm talking about. They all have this certain sterile, metallic, industrial aroma. What's underneath, though, is exquisite. Melon candy, kiwi, a little banana runt. I like a banana runt. Some strawberry and a hint of cantaloupe. Flavor delivers the soft notes of melon and ripe kiwi, which is pleasant and translates the nose well. But it doesn't want to be a juice bomb. So there's the semi-harsh, semi-chalky wall of bitter basil and pine. Feel is moderately to highly carbonated.
Now, lots ahead.
Also acidic and somewhat juicy, which is what I like, but the alcohol is not hidden at all. It hits your mouth, your throat, your stomach, and it creates a really furnace effect back up the esophagus, remaining acidity on the finish.
I don't want a furnace effect up my esophagus.
Depends who's doing it to me. Okay. Like this guy must have the palate of a 3-year-old, because this thing on first sip is smooth.
His first beer.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think I have a feeling. I don't want to jinx anything. I have a feeling Voodoo Ranger's going to keep their streak of some of the best big brewed IPAs around. They're going to keep going. Any TikTok this week? This is weird because I just saw you a couple days ago, and I'm going to probably see you again in a couple of days because you forgot to bring the one thing that you were supposed to bring.
The whole reason, we met up.
Yeah. So it's a weird week where I'll probably see you almost 3 times in 1 week. But what have you been up to?
Not much. Just surviving. That's all anybody does now.
Yeah, you started your House of L work.
Yeah. I'm dragging ass on that. I've got the beginning of a book, Blues. So this is how it always starts, and I'm stuck in this cycle because I don't know how to get out of it. So it starts like this. You have it's all self-loathing and self-doubt and everything's the worst. and you don't trust a single line you put down. But then it gets to the point where you have to do something. So you just start working it out and you shit stuff out. And I realize that I can get out of this if I just work out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I always let it get to the point where I can't choose to work out of it. I have to work out of it. And then I'm working for like 2.5 weeks, just nonstop. And by the end, everything feels good, but I'm exhausted. So I'm like, all right, I need a break. So I take a break, and then all the momentum disappears, and I forget everything. And then we start the cycle all over again.
Yeah.
The worst. I hate it.
Yeah, it's someone else just, or maybe it was you that tweeted it this morning or something. You're just like, every day I feel like I have to learn how to redraw, or like every day I feel like I'm losing it. Yeah. And it's so prominent when you're not in the middle. Like a couple of weeks ago when I was doing 5-6 pages of layouts a day, which for me is a lot, because I hate layouts, so it's hard for me to just crank them out. But it's easy to get into a rhythm where you're like, oh, here's an ear I've drawn 5,000 times. I'll do that. Here's a face I've drawn 1,000 times. I can just do this. It's so easy.
Right. That's, yeah.
But that's when you're in the flow. Like, it's almost like when you're cranking that engine first thing in the morning, or like you said, first thing on a project. It's like, I don't remember how to draw an ear, even though you could probably draw a perfect ear with your eyes closed.
Yes, there's intuition is not the right word. I guess it's instinct is sort of the thing. It's instinct and desperation are the two things that come together and allow me to be able to work with some sort of comfort and competency. Yeah, because it gets to the point where you're like, fuck it. I got to do this. It's got to get done. And yeah, overthinking's never helped anybody do anything.
Yeah, I feel like the whole, like, I got to do this, it's got to get done. A lot of that's because, like, I got a bill because I got to get paid. And so that's part of the problem I've ran into with this Kickstarter book is I'm not getting paid for that work. So it's like I feel like I have to color a family tree page, or I have to do some other paying work before I can justify working on the Kickstarter, which is unfair to the people who backed the Kickstarter, because I did get paid for that Kickstarter. It let me go on a trip of a lifetime, essentially. Like, it let me do all this stuff. But that was so long ago that's not paying my tax bill today. That's not paying my grocery bill today. So it is. And also the lack of someone yelling at me for a deadline. I realized the next book I do, that's my own book from start to finish, I'm almost going to need, like, to just have my wife be like, hey, yell at me on this day. Yell at me on this day. Just so I feel like I owe it. I feel like I got to produce. And I don't mean to say that, like, I don't owe it to people, because I do, because people did order the book and they ordered it a long time ago. But mentally, it's hard to get over the aspect of, like, I can ink these 2 pages and not be able to bill for them today, or I can color this 1 page and be able to bill today and not feel like a piece of shit when I go to bed. Like last night, I colored a page and I inked 2 pages, and I felt great because I made some money yesterday. This morning, I colored a page, I made some money. So the rest of the day, I can just ink and I feel better. It's almost like it's such a mental block. Like, how much money did I make today? Am I a piece of shit? Am I not a piece of shit? A lot of that in my brain is tied into, did I make some money today? So,
yeah, there's an element of that, I suppose. Yeah, I don't know. I feel bad every month because I have the same cycle, and I'm like 6 years into this. I should be over this. I should have this licked and figured out.
Well, is it the same whether you're working 5 issues in a row on Young Justice? Is every issue is a struggle to start, or is it because?
Yeah, no, everything.
Okay, so it's not because sometimes you're jumping around every 2 months between another project.
Yeah, I lazed around at the beginning of whatever it was, whatever the kickoff to all of this was, and then you get into well, now I have to do stuff, and you burn yourself out, and then you tell yourself you deserve a break, and then the momentum dries up, and then you just start again. And so I lie to myself at the end of every project saying, okay, you deserve a break. Well, you took that break at the beginning.
Right.
So no, you don't deserve a break. What you need to do is keep going. You don't need to push yourself. You don't need to be doing 3 pages a day like you were last week, but you need to be doing something every day. And I'm like, fuck you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. Like when I, if I get pages for a book, like that, especially that I'm coloring, and I know I can color 3 pages a day, especially if they're flatted. I can color more than 1 page a day easily. And so like sometimes I'll have pages that I got sent and I'm just like, oh, I'll do those next week because next week I know I can do 2-3 pages a day. So what does it matter if I do 5 pages this week or if I do 10 pages next week? It's all the same. But then the next week comes and I'm like, God, I don't want to do 2 pages today.
Right.
I don't want to do 2.5 pages today. Like, what did I do last week? And I look over and I'm like, oh, well, you felt sorry for yourself Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah. Thursday, you got drunk. And then Friday, you're traveling, to go to.
Yeah, I don't practice what I preach. I tell my kids all the time, be nice to your future self. So is this what you want to be doing later? Do you want to do 4 days of homework on Thursday night? No, you don't want to do that.
Right. Yeah, I saw a bumper sticker today, actually. I was driving to go pick up some beer and some groceries, and all it said was beat yesterday. And I'm like, oh, that's a great thing. Like, just every day doesn't have to be a marathon. Just try to make it better than the day before. And like, if you have a shitty Monday, don't have a shitty Tuesday. It's almost like
the only way you can keep going with that is to keep having shitty todays.
Well, or just like, I guess beats like a match maybe. Like if I try to have today be as good or better than yesterday. It's almost like sports. Like they say in sports, if you're a team and you get blown out like on a Tuesday, the best thing to do is have a game the next day because you get over it immediately.
Right.
You don't have to sit and dwell on it. And I thought that aspect of that sentiment was correct.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a different problem for me. I got into sort of talking about it on Twitter, and
that's always the best place to have Discord.
Well, you start thinking about it and really sort of drilling down into it. And we've talked about it before, the idea of not really having learned how to do it, how to draw, a figure that's 6 heads tall or whatever, and the space between the eyes and the nose, and the musculature and shit, and all of the pros that built the industry all had that training because there were no comics, when they started. No, I'm sure Jack Kirby and Gil Kane and Will Eisner, they didn't grow up wanting to do comics. They grew up being interested in drawing. And when you're interested in drawing, there's a specific tract that you put yourself on, and you learn all the basics. You learn all the traditional and the classical stuff. And I beat the saying to death. I've said it here. I say it all the time that, before you can break the rules, you have to know what the rules are. And I think there are a lot of people after a certain generation of illustrator that never learned the rules.
Yeah.
So they were all guys that came up having read Jack Kirby and Gil Kane and Will Eisner. And that's their education, is wanting to draw like them, so they copy them.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever naturally happens. Your voice melds with that sort of stuff, and you get your own thing. But I could not name you a single muscle on the human body. I don't know how anything works.
Yeah, Mike Hawthorne, Marvel Comics artist, longtime comics artist. Actually, back in the day when I was just starting out with comics, I think I've talked about this before too, but when I was just starting out and I was doing my first book, you feel like if you knew somebody online, you knew them. So like
Right.
I was just an idiot. So I'd just ask anybody to do a pinup for my book. So that's how I got like an Eric Canetti, Robbie Rodriguez and Mike Hawthorne, Andy McDonald, all did back covers for Villains, my very first book. But the Mike Hawthorne cover is insanely good. The back cover to Villains that he did for me, or it wasn't even Villains. It might have been even the book before that, which is like Hurricane Kids or some shit like that. But anyways, so I've known of Mike's work for a long time, and he does these on his Patreon is mostly a teaching Patreon, and he does that kind of thing. Like he'll do muscle studies. He'll draw the musculature of a body and name,
That's so valuable.
and he knows all the muscles, and he'll do a skeletal structure illustration, and he knows the bones. And I'm like you, like I don't unless it's like a bicep or a penile muscle or like a gluteus maximus.
Right. Yeah, I know what a butt is.
Yeah, and I know what a calf is because I got super sweet calves. But other than that, like I don't know. I think these are traps. That I know that's a tricep.
Yeah, and like different kinds of fabric and how they hang and wrinkle and shit.
Yeah,
like canvas moves differently than cotton, moves differently than denim. Like, man.
All of my fabric just hangs shittily. Like whatever fabric I'm drawing, it looks like garbage. But please buy my comics. But yeah, it's that thing. Like, but I don't think it's necessarily like we don't know. I don't think that you need to know all that to draw comics nowadays. What we do is we do know how to draw comics. We just let our brains get in the way. When you start a page in the morning, you know what you're doing. You're just it's your brain telling you, like you're tricking yourself. I don't trust myself, but it's repetition. You've done it enough. You know what you're doing. You know how to draw those layouts. It's almost like it's another way to procrastinate. Because maybe I don't want to do these layouts right now. So the way to procrastinate is to tell myself I'm terrible and get mad at myself because that's normal. That's comfortable.
I think a lot of it comes down to the time crunch too. And I know I need to work out of it, but I don't have time to do the work. I need to employ as many shortcuts as possible to be able to get this done. So yeah, and it just keeps snowballing until everything just falls apart, and you're naked and sucking your thumb in a corner.
That's what you're sucking. I think what might help you, and because I take the shortcuts with the Ronin book because that's kind of what it is. It's experiment. I use the brushes that are available to me, the foliage brushes. I do all that. I think you're hesitant to do that because in your mind you have like this thing that's cheating. And maybe I'm just speaking for you, but I just read a Big 2 book by an artist that I enjoy, and I'm pretty sure I spotted, oh, that's a concept brush of a tree.
Oh.
And it didn't take me out of it. I mean, normally like a Greg Land book will take me out of it. So I'm like, that's traced, or that's a. We've read comics where they just like ink not even ink, they put a filter on a SketchUp model and that's the background. That takes me out of it. But seeing a shortcut like a tree brush in the background, that doesn't take me out of it at all because it's such a minuscule part of the panel that it doesn't bother me. So I was actually, when I saw it and I spotted it, I was kind of like, oh, okay, I'm happy now because that dude's doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, I don't get hung up on that stuff. It doesn't bother me. I don't have a lot of the brushes, nor do I feel like I really have occasion to use like a silhouette bush brush or.
Dude, every occasion is a silhouette bush brush.
That's hard to say.
It is hard to say.
But I will say that if you aren't utilizing shortcuts, you're doing something wrong, or at least you're not being very kind to yourself.
Yeah, like I think like if you're a creator right now working, if you're a penciler inker, I guess it'd mostly be inker. if you're working right now and you're not utilizing all the shortcuts available to you due to technology, you're either such a great artist and have such a following that the original art sales make up for that. We've talked about this, that the original art sales make up for all that extra work you're doing is to sell that original. But let's say you're a new guy who's not selling any art, or let's say you're like me. There's no reason for someone like me to work traditionally and fucking like kill myself to work traditionally when I'm not selling original art. When I have all these digital shortcuts I can take in inking, I can take advantage of in inking, and it doesn't matter. So like unless you're one of these guys who sells every page of every issue, unless you're Ryan Otley, unless you're Ryan Otley, then why would you work traditionally? It's just crazy. And then like I said, we've talked about this. Some dudes, they keep the money pages and they ink those traditionally so they can sell those. Sure. But if it's just two assholes talking in a diner, there's no reason to kill yourself on the layout, the perspective of that diner. There's no reason not to have a model for that and just get that page out of the way and move on.
Yeah. Like working digitally is already a shortcut in itself. I guess relatively, right? Because traditional is still a thing that is an option. And I would guess that I save maybe 30 to 40% time-wise working digitally. So it might even be more than that. I don't know.
Yeah.
So whatever. I don't know. It's all in my head. You just need to stop thinking about shit. You just need to do. It's like folding laundry. It's fucking comic books. Yeah, turn your brain off and you just work.
It is. And people who love comics and there's don't get me wrong. Comics are some of the hardest art. It's one of the hardest art forms to do well because you have to do every aspect of it well to be considered like an Adam Hughes or a fucking, Stuart Evening or whatever. You have to be so skilled at drawing everything to make it work well. But it's also a disposable art form where people look at something you spend hours on for seconds. So,
sure.
So what do you owe the reader? What do you owe your mental health? What do you owe your physical health? So it's both a disposable art form and in my mind, maybe one of the highest art forms because it's not a single illustration that's going to be looked at for hundreds of years and revered. It's going to be something the page is going to be turned within seconds. So it's kind of both. You have to be one of the best artists currently in the world, which give me the number one comic artist on the planet, whoever that is, in your opinion. They might be one of the best artists on the planet in conjunction with their colorist and whatever. They might be able to produce a cover that is one of the best illustrations of all time, but because it's comics, it's never going to compare to an Andy Warhol can of fucking beans.
It's like animation, kind of. How long do you think it takes to read a 20-page comic on average? 10 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, I do it all the time. Yeah.
So, and it's going to take it's going to take a handful of people an entire month to produce.
Yeah.
Which is what, like, for that, you call it maybe, Jesus, I don't know, 200 hours for lines, for an entire book, and then colors, script, letters. So it's essentially like 3 to 4 full-time jobs. I'm totally bummed out right now.
3 to 4 full-time jobs so that when I'm stuffing a burrito in my mouth at Del Taco, I can just read a comic, which I did yesterday at Del Taco. A nice man walked up to me on the way into Del Taco and told me that he has coronavirus and can I give him money for the bus? And I don't know. I mean, look, we really got to do something about the homeless problem in America. I'm not anti-homeless because I know a lot, and I'm not anti addict.
Coronavirus.
I'm not anti-addict because I know a lot of these guys can't. A lot of people can't help it. They're addicts. That it's a condition you're born with. I get all that. I don't need a dude walking up to me saying, "I have the coronavirus. Do you have any change on you?"
Right.
And I think he's looking for sympathy. Like, I don't think that guy really might have had coronavirus, but I think he thinks like, "Oh, I'm sick. Give me money."
Right.
That's not the right illness to say you're sick. That's not the right way to approach me.
At least he didn't say, I have coronavirus. Can I give you some change?
Right. Right. I probably would have taken it at this point. So anyways, I went to Del Taco yesterday and I read my haul from Cab Comics. Shout out to Cab Comics. And one thing I wanted to give the shout out, because we really got to get moving. We're already running late. If that's a thing we can possibly do on this show. I'm going to cut my TikTok segment a little short, but I wanted to give a shout out to Fantastic Four, number 25 by Dan Slott, the hero RB Silva, and colorist Jesus Arbatov. So I don't know about you, but as a fan of like science and adventure and superheroes, I've always wanted Fantastic Four to be a better book than it's been.
Uh-huh.
I love the idea of the Fantastic Four, but I've never really followed the Fantastic Four because they didn't have a Jim Lee or a Mark Silvestri or Joe Mad on that book, right? Like, so outside of like Salvador LaRocca's run in like the early 90s or mid 90s, maybe even the late 90s, whatever, in the 90s. But for the most part, like, I don't have runs of Fantastic Four that last longer than like 2 to 3 issues. But RB Silva is announced as the new artist on Fantastic Four. But I realize in today's market, that could be 3 issues, whatever. But I really hope he stays on because it was perfect. It was a great issue. You could tell they did a lot. They basically had to establish because it's like a jump on issue. So they had one issue to establish, this is who we are, this is what we do, this is where we're currently at, and this is where we're going. And they did that all in kind of one 25-page, 30-page issue. It was an oversized issue. I'm not quite sure. But it was great. Huge action. He drew Mr. Fantastic. Maybe this is just the thing that I'm reading into. He drew Mr. Fantastic, kind of looked like John Krasinski. Like, I feel like this is what we're doing here.
Yeah,
and
this is where we are.
And I like it. I like it a lot, actually. Huge action. Great. Like, I don't know, man. You know how like some guys can just draw caped superheroes well? So there's 2 characters in this issue that have capes. And it's just like, and at one point it was just a silhouette. And I'm like, I know who that is. I know who that is. I know who that is. Like, everything was great. So shout out to RB Silva, who's really being my dude. But yeah, I highly recommend anyone who had any slight interest in Fantastic Four, definitely pick up number 25 that just came out. It's a jump on point, and if that's the way it continues, I'm super excited about the future of Marvel's first family, as they say. Yeah. I assume you got no comics this week, so I'll just keep going.
Comics.
So
nerd.
On brand for today's topic, which is, as far as topics go, I guess it's a topic. I also watched The Haunting of Bly House on Netflix. Matt in our Discord thing mentioned it a couple weeks ago. I watched The Haunting.
Oh,
not The Hounding. I watched The Haunting. Yeah, the Haunting of Hill House. I watched that last season. So this is the same guy, but I guess it's not a sequel.
Is this the like Bly Manor or something?
Yes. Oh, maybe that's what it's called, The Haunting of Bly Manor, not The Haunting of Bly House. Haunting of Bly Manor on Netflix. So as we get into today's topic of what horror and stuff like that, I found it okay. It was tiresome. Had some fun tropes, but the problem with me, I think you and I have talked about this again in the past, is I just, it's easy to figure stuff out. If I get like one little like hint of something, I can be like, oh, this is what I think is going to happen because it's what I would do with this story. So that kind of bummed me out because almost everything I was saying like 3 episodes later was like revealed. And my wife's like getting mad at me, and I'm like,
yeah, I hate that.
Yeah, so that kind of bummed me out that like there weren't those kind of twists, and then the twist.
I hate it when people do that.
Oh no, I do it all the time.
I hate
because when it pops up, I want to be able to refer back to when I was right. So that's why I do it. So I'll do it at 8:30 at night, and then at 11:30 at night, right before bed, when the reveal is announced, I'll look at my wife. I'll be like, I knew it. I knew it. And you knew I knew it because I told you that I knew it.
It's important.
It's very important to be right all the time. So that was kind of a bummer that it was kind of, for me, it was kind of by the numbers. And then I had a cheap jump scare or two, but other than that, I was on my phone by like episode 4.5, 5. You know, I was just like, I don't care. You know, like I would go take a shower and my wife's like, should I pause this? And I'm like, it doesn't matter. I could miss the next 3 episodes and be completely caught up. And then the stuff that I didn't figure out that was introduced, I thought was kind of like, ugh. Like it didn't do anything for me. So it didn't, it's fine. It's fine. If you have 8 hours and the person you're watching TV with, whether it be your husband, your wife, your partner, hours? I'm just saying over a weekend.
Ugh. God, I can't imagine watching TV for 8 hours over 2 days. I pulled my fucking hair out.
Well, I don't know what to tell you. I have, I like to make my wife happy, and she likes to binge watch TV because she has a very stressful job, and it's important to me that she's happy. But
yeah, I guess
today's topic.
Oh, what are we talking about?
Oh wait, I just clicked on a link. I thought it was going to do it. Hang on.
Don't never click on links. Never go to a second location with the internet.
This isn't working out the way I wanted it to work out, but I'm still not going to edit it.
Oh my God. I don't know what's happening.
No, don't worry about it. I'm going to figure it out. But yeah, today's topic was recommended by a listener, and I hate myself because I can't find, in today's world of Twitter DMs, Instagram DMs, Facebook conversations, email, Patreon, I can't find this conversation. But earlier this month, it was I said, what are topics for shows that you guys want to see? Someone said, what are your guys' favorite horror movies, favorite horror comics? And I said, well, let me save that for the Halloween episode. When this episode drops, industry term, I don't mean to confuse anybody. When this episode drops, Halloween is Saturday. So I thought, let's get the Halloween episode out of the way. So I guess that's today's topic as we're now approaching 40 minutes of the show. Let's get into Halloween. But I feel bad because I can't remember where the question was posed and who said it, but I feel like it was a 30 to 40-ish white guy. So I'm just going to give a shout out to Nick Sage, Travis Ellisor, and Russell McDowell. It's probably one of those dudes because I guess our entire audience is probably 30 to 45-year-old white dudes. But shout out to those bosses. But yeah, Scott, what is your, because I have a definitive answer to this. How do you feel about the upcoming Halloween season? And how do you feel about October in general as being like a Halloween horror themed month?
I really want to like Halloween. I also really want to like Christmas. And I really want to like things. But I've come to realize it's just not something I'm capable of. So what do I think of the Halloween season?
Sure.
I think it's just like any other season for me. When you have young kids, everything's the same. So, can we go get our Halloween costumes? And you think, when I was a kid, a Halloween costume was a fucking wig and some Dracula teeth or something. But no, now there's actual Halloween stores, and whatever the closest store to you is that is vacant is a Spirit right now. And everything in there, nothing's cheaper than $50. So I've got 3 kids. So when I go Halloween costume shopping, I know I'm going to drop $150 easy every year. So that bums me out. And then there's there we go. And yeah, so decoration, setting up shit again. Everybody's so excited to put stuff up. It's so excited. Okay, fine, let's do it. Haul out the boxes, and then it's like then poof, everybody disappears, and it's dad. So no, I don't like it. I don't like anything about it. I used to like the movies that come on, like you got TCM playing a bunch of old stuff. If you like old stuff, you weirdo. And there's AMC that plays stuff. I don't get AMC on Hulu Live, the one channel that plays anything decent during the Halloween season. That stinks. Oh, is this Halloween? Is this the? Yeah.
See, it was supposed to be a surprise.
I told you about that too.
What?
When we saw each other, that several years ago, I tried watching John Carpenter's Halloween for the first time because everybody recommends it. Oh, it's a classic. You got to see Halloween. You got to see Halloween. And the opening shot is his POV walking around and murdering the girl. And you can tell, if it's the cameraman, if it's John Carpenter, he's got a 20-pound camera on his shoulder trying to do the POV shot. He opens a drawer and reaches for a knife and he misses it the first time. Like, no.
Yeah.
I'm out. I can't do this.
Yeah, I'm
There's probably some charm to the guerrilla style, low budget filmmaking aspects, but
right.
That's not my bag.
Yeah, I apologize for the clunkiness of the last couple of minutes. I was trying to figure something out, but yeah, I'm not I think yes, when we saw each other the other day with the surprise appearance by internationally acclaimed comic book writer John Layman, but we saw each other the other day. I didn't, or I guess I talked about the only reason I ever watched horror movies in like junior high and high school was to see boobs.
Yeah.
Was to see boobs because the boobs were it was a guarantee of boobs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but I've never been one of those people I think we might have talked about this on a previous Halloween episode if we've had such a thing because I have no memory. But I went to when I was like 12 or 13 with my first girlfriend, we went to like a haunted house thing. And I did not enjoy it. It was terrifying. I did not enjoy it. And so maybe that's why, I just don't, maybe it's because I'm uncomfortable all the time that I don't want to watch something that makes me feel uncomfortable.
Sure. There's an anxiety porn aspect to horror film
that I don't love. So to answer either Nick or Travis's or Russell's or some other white dude who asked us a question, I don't enjoy horror movies. I don't care about. When I think about October, I think oh shit, I might be able to throw a scarf on and a sweater, and I get pumped about that. I don't care.
I like it. So October falls into the fall season, which is always
technically
the best time of year,
right?
In the desert, because that means the cooler weather is ahead of you.
Yeah.
So it's that anticipation thing, even though, it's still like 83 in January. So what? Yeah, scary movies. There's degrees of scary movies, right? So there's total hardcore garbage like Eli Roth torture stuff. I've never seen any of that. I have no interest in anything like that. There's my favorite one, I guess, is going to be the horror comedy because it's fun, I guess. It's stuff like Gremlins. And,
oh, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, a few years ago, there was Krampus. Krampus was fun. Tremors, I guess I would put in that category. Yeah, and then there's, you got your thriller sort of horror movies. Exorcist is still one of my favorite movies. I still think it's scary as fuck. I could show it to my 12-year-old. He'd probably be bored out of his mind.
Yeah, I never got I never got how Exorcist was super scary.
Yeah, that's weird. I don't know what to say to that.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, let's go in order here. Let's get off of movies for a second. Do you read or have you ever read horror comics?
Sure.
Okay.
So when I graduated from straight superhero comics to mature readers comics. It was with Warren Ellis's run on Hellblazer, which even today I think is, I would hold that up there with stuff like Sandman and Preacher and
Right, but you weren't actually
the top of the Vertigo stuff.
But they weren't really scary. Like, you weren't scared when you read them, were you?
They were no, but scary is so subjective. They were totally horror books, and you really felt it. It had a horrifying, visceral quality to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that when you're 16, 17 is it was the stuff that I shouldn't have been reading. It was like that's what it felt like. It's like, oh, I'm doing something I know I shouldn't be doing. This is super cool.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, my Warren Ellis Hellblazer they were the Playboys in the woods.
Wow, your adolescence sucked. Because I literally had Playboys in the woods.
Yeah. It's I may go bust them out now after we're done talking about this and give them a reread and do that instead of working.
Well, that's not well. I got a message. I saw a message from you this morning in the studio chat that you need to work today. So I'll message you offline, but you should get to work. But I put up two of my in my little display behind my head for anyone who's watching the video. Two awesome horror comics. I mean, I didn't put Family Tree up there, but that's a great horror comic as well.
Yeah, where's that?
I just didn't want to dig them out of the box. Yeah. So these are on my bookshelf. Dark and Bloody, which my favorite comic artist drew, happens to be you. And then Graveyard of Empires by Paul Azaceta and Mark Sable. As a true comic artist,
I don't know that one.
I list the artist first. So Paul Azaceta and Mark Sable. It's basically like set in Afghanistan, and this is a real thing that happened. But basically, the U.S. government would pay Afghanistan farmers to stop making poppy because you can make heroin from poppy. Mm-hmm. So they would try to pay them to grow other crops, and if they didn't, they might burn their crops or whatever. But it was kind of like, hey, we want to be friendly first. Let's give you money. Let's give you seed. Let's get your thing transferred over from poppy. So this has to do with the like the poppy farming in, I'm pretty sure it's Afghanistan, but it's essentially a zombie book that spills out of it. But it's great. It's good. Like I said, Paul Azaceta. Hang on. In my current duties as a colorist, I need to find out. I think this might be Nick Filardi on colors, but let me double check. Matthew Wilson, the great Matthew Wilson on colors. And then Dark and Bloody is you, Sean Aldridge, and Patricia Mulvihill. Yep. I'll just call her Patty. I'm sure she won't mind
Trish,
at all.
Yeah.
Trish. Yeah, Trish. Great. Another great horror book that has elements of like the supernatural along with standard horror. With there's some shit going on there. I don't know if I quite understand. I might need to reread it. But yeah, those are good books. But I don't seek out horror books. Like I consider Hellboy a superhero book. People don't, but I do. I've never read anything in Hellboy that I would consider horror. I mean, it has monsters and shit, but it's not scary at all. It's not like
there's a total distinction. The two things are not mutually exclusive between being horror and being scary.
I guess that's where I get hung up.
I would consider Hellboy a horror book.
Yeah, I guess that's where I get hung up on it. Like, did it scare me? Then it's horror. If it didn't scare me, then it's adventure or it's something else.
Yeah, like one of my favorite horror books is it's the Hellboy story, The Wolves of Saint
Augustine.
Augustine, yeah.
Well, it might be August.
I think it's August.
Yeah, keep talking.
Yeah, great. Yeah, let's go with that.
Right.
Great story. Love it.
Wolves of St. August. Yeah,
It's got ghost werewolves. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it has that great scene of the dude cutting himself in half.
Yeah, ripping.
Yeah,
Oh God,
yeah.
great.
We've talked about this. That might be that the collected volume of that is in the Corpse in the Iron Shoes, which I think is my favorite collected Hellboy because it has the Corpse in the Iron Shoes.
Yeah.
Has Wolves of St. August. It's got not almost, maybe it does have, no, not almost Colossus, but it has something else in there. It's a great collection of books. But yeah, I don't seek out. I would never buy a comic because I think it's it's a horror comic, so let me check it out. I would never do that. No disrespect to Sean, I probably would have never checked out Dark and Bloody if you weren't on it because I just don't. It's never. I don't read horror novel. I guess I grew up reading horror novels. I grew up obsessed with the Stephen King novels of the '80s.
I've never read a single one.
I read all of those, but they never scared me. They're just good novels because he's a good writer. They're good page-turning novels. He's a good. He knows how to write a novel.
I don't think horror is especially. It doesn't need to be especially scary. I think there again are degrees of things. I would not equate scary with frightening, and the same with disturbing. Or I think horror creates a very specific visceral reaction in you. So you don't have to necessarily jump out of your seat. You're never going to jump out of your seat when you're reading a horror book, right? With the comics, you control the pace. So you turn the page. There's nothing stopping you from looking at the last panel of the facing page before you go back. So being a scary comic, I don't know that that's really a thing, but a horror comic is certainly, yeah. I mean, Preacher's a horror comic. Even Garth Ennis's run on Punisher might even be a horror comic, just like body horror. Yeah.
People can't, if you're not watching the video, the version of this, first of all, listen to the audio version so we get the ad revenue, but then jump over to the YouTube page and watch the video version because I'm going to shake my head right now and be like, I don't think Preacher is a horror comic in the slightest.
Oh, really?
There's not at all. Other than having a vampire, what makes it a horror comic?
Well, you don't have to have a vampire to be a horror comic.
Spoiler alert. I know, but there's. I guess the problem is we lack genres. We lack definition. So it's not superhero. It's not a journal comic. It's not a biographical comic, and it's not a crime comic. So where do we put it? But I wouldn't put Preacher as a horror comic.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. No, I'm struggling now.
Supernatural and horror are separate.
So I don't even know. I don't think supernatural is a genre of anything.
Well, I guess then I guess I do enjoy horror stuff, but I don't. I guess I have a different because I really enjoy supernatural stuff.
So all of the things that the characters do to each other in Preacher would lead me to term it a horror comic.
I guess they are technically horrific.
Yeah, exactly, and that's exactly what the description of horror is, right? Is horrific. If you any story you could describe as horrific is a horror story.
No, that's a good point. Yeah. Okay. So, all right, let's move on to movies then, real quick, because again, it's getting late. You got pages of pencil. Yeah. So I don't care. I'm not a horror movie fan. Again, I watched as many as I could in high school just because they had boobs in them. But I never really sought them out. Like if there was because it was like if you went to the video store in the 90s, comedies didn't have boobs unless they were like National Lampoon comedies, like Porky's or something.
Sure.
And sci-fi was trying to still be super cool in sci-fi. So they didn't really have a lot. All these sub-genres and genres, they want to be accessible to the most amount of people as possible. But horror movies always are, so there was always a chance you might get to see some nips. So I watched a lot of horror movies, but it never caught on. I was never a horror fan. I do have. So let's talk about that. So like I don't care. Like I really don't even care about Halloween. We haven't touched on that, other than you talking about it's a pain in the butt. It is a pain in the butt.
Yeah, it's a pain. Everything's a pain, though.
When I lived in Phoenix 15 years ago, the best part about Halloween was we would drag a wagon around behind us, not with a kid in it, but with like beer in it, and the kids would trick or treat and we would drink. That was my best. That's a good Halloween memory. But I'm like, I guess I'm just a piece of shit. But,
yeah, we don't get movie Halloween around here. There's no gust of wind that blow, the fallen leaves around. There's no nip in the air. It's 90 degrees when I go outside and start walking around. I can't wear a scarf or a jacket. I'm going to sweat to death.
Yeah. So no surprise, but we're just the worst at everything. But we did try to talk about horror movies the other day when we hung out, but let's try to go back to that. What are some of your favorite horror movies?
I always gravitated towards monster movies because I always liked, the same reason, I guess, like Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi are the fun Star Wars movies because of all the puppets and the creatures and shit. I even now, but even as a kid, like even like 12, 13, like one of my heroes was Stan Winston because I could see what he did. I knew what he did. All of his shit was just so cool. And so I gravitated towards monster movies. So when I gave you my list earlier, it's stuff like Gremlins, stuff like Tremors, Pumpkinhead, the only movie he ever directed. I guess Alien. As far as horror movie goes, I guess so. You could do worse. But as far as the monster movies go, the stuff that I was interested in, I would call Aliens a better monster movie than Alien.
Aliens is a war movie. Alien is a horror movie.
It's a lot of things. That is a genre-bending film. Aliens.
It's all over the place, but it ends up being an action movie at the end of the day.
What was I watching? Oh, I watched Jaws again the other night. Again, a great monster movie. And that's another movie that starts as one thing and ends as something else. The last half hour is just all adventure, which is fun.
Yeah, I'm one of these dudes who really appreciates Jaws, but I don't adore it the way a lot of people my age adore Jaws. Like
Jaws is right fucking there. It's fighting with a couple other movies at the top of my list. Yeah.
Yeah,
God damn it, I love that movie.
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
There's a bit where, after the first girl gets killed, Brody knows there's a shark, and he's sitting on the beach with his family, just watching the water. And you have to see it. I'm not going to be able to do it justice. He's watching, so they're going from his POV back to him, and the wipe is the people walking in front of him, and it gets closer and closer with every cut. And if ever I were going to masturbate to a scene in a movie, it would be that sequence.
Yeah, I think I just need to rewatch it more. I don't think I appreciate it, and it's not one of those things where like I don't appreciate it, and I think everyone else is full of shit. I do think it's one of the best movies ever made, and I just don't appreciate it. Like I'm the problem.
I giggle, like I squeal to myself every time I see that scene. It's just so fucking good.
Yeah, My list of 4 to 5 movies. The number one was Alien, which I was talking about the other day when we were hanging out. Is like that is. First of all, it's maybe it's because I saw it at a certain age, but it has the jump scare in it that actually got me scared. To where now, like I expect jump scares in horror movies, so I'm always tense. But that one worked.
I can't think of a jump scare other than the one where the alien just wants a hug. Like he comes out of the shadows. that sort of thing.
No, there's the good one at the end where she thinks it's all over, and then he's in the background and he starts crawling at it. So it's not an immediate
It's not
jump
a jump scare, but no, it's effective for sure.
That's pretty scary to me.
And yeah, what is that? 79. So this is a couple of years after the first Star Wars movie. That sort of, yeah. So I can see a little bit of Star Wars in that.
Sure.
The sort of the lived-in, sort of grimy future rather than
that's
2001. Everything's shiny.
Yeah, that's what I like. Like I like with my sci-fi. I like The Expanse. I like that grimy. Like we're just gonna repurpose shit for 300 years.
Yeah,
and that's the future. Yeah.
I went back through this Firefly series the other week.
So did I.
Yeah. After you sent me that pic, I was like, I should.
Get into that. After I reminded you that Christina Hendricks was in 2 episodes, you decided to go back through. Yeah. My wife tells me that she thinks that the last 10 minutes of Alien formed my entire sexuality. White tank top, white panties. Yeah, might have done it. Another good movie as far as 2 more good sci-fi horror movies that I talk about a lot. Sunshine and Snowpiercer, I think, are good sci-fi horror movies. Although I question whether Sunshine is truly a horror movie, but I guess it is. It depends on. Sure.
What about Winter Soldier? How about that?
Winter Soldier is a horror movie?
Or Push?
Oh shit! Yeah, it's okay. I didn't even put the 2 together.
Another teen movie.
I just tied them together by being great movies with super attractive stars in them. Sunshine and Snowpiercer. But yeah, Sunshine has a great going mad kind of vibe to it that I like. So as I get into what I really think is horrific to me, what scares me, Sunshine hits a couple of those buttons, and so does Snowpiercer. So yeah, I like sci-fi horror films. That's for damn sure. I think I talked about this with you, but you hadn't seen it. But The Strangers with Liv Tyler. I think it's Liv Tyler. This might be the scariest movie I've ever seen in my life.
I guess I want sort of a fantastical escapist element to my scary movies.
See, that's not scary to me.
Something like a home invasion thing. It's
so terrifying.
That's 100% totally a horror idea.
Right.
It's not something I'm interested in experiencing.
Right. Well, sure.
No, not even. I'm not talking about in real life.
I'm not even. Shit! I'll cancel my home invasion
experience watching that.
Right. Oh, I'll cancel my Gilbert home invasion then. And then my last 2 notes on here, I'll just get through them real quick. My last 2 movies are, I think Jordan Peele's horror movies are really amazingly well done.
Either of them.
Get Out and Us, the creepy. That's the thing. They're more creepy than anything else. They're just you do that.
Sure.
And they're super thought provoking. So he's doing something that's real special to where it's when it's over, you got to question why you thought it was scary or why you thought it was creepy. Right. And mostly it's because I'm white, but that's kind of what you get out of it. But I'm totally into it. So Get Out and Us are good. But so I guess I'm going to blow my load right now. What scares me is shit that can really happen. Or mind tricks. So The Strangers can really happen. I don't think a dude in a hockey mask is going to show up at my door and try to kill me. But I do think some dude might knock on my door one night and be like, "Hey man, can you help me with my car?" And then end up fucking murdering my whole family. That's real. That could happen.
Yeah.
In Sunshine, the guys go mad. A lot of them go mad because of space dementia and other normal things. So that's scary to me because it's mental and I can picture that. But I'm not worried about a Michael Myers or a fucking Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, I so generally when people say, when I say I don't like a movie, and they'll say, "Oh, well, all I want from my movie is I just want it to be entertaining." And I guess maybe that's what my expectation of a scary movie um, needs to be. Is at least it needs to be entertaining. So if it's going to make me anxious and it's going to make me feel bad, I at least want to have fun watching it. And I don't think any of those things lend itself to that. Certainly, I mean, I haven't seen them, but I've heard the shit about what Hereditary and Midsummer and uh, uh, yeah, what the Green whatever.
Green Room.
No, not Green Room, not Green Mile. The Eli Roth one about the cannibals, Green something or other. Doesn't matter. Anyway, yeah, I want some. I need some elements of fun to balance out the awfulness. Um, it's it's a film length equivalent of an emotional moment in a Marvel movie where it's always capped by a joke. They can't just let shit breathe. Yeah, that's what I want.
That's right. Because you don't want to think at all. You just want to be entertained.
Yeah, I can have a drama be a drama and an action movie be like a hard action movie. But if it's a movie whose goal is to make me uncomfortable and anxious, I need to at least have fun watching it.
Yeah, I could see that. Like, I think, I guess I think like with my choices, or what immediately comes to mind is Alien, Sunshine to me, Get Out, Us. They're just really good movies, not necessarily
Sure.
good horror movies. They're just
Yeah.
well-made movies.
Yeah.
So I think you can have the scariest
Yeah.
movie of all time, but if it's not well made, I don't care because it's shit.
Yeah. It certainly helps to have a filmmaker with a competent vision,
Yeah,
like Sixth Sense. I would put up there as a good scary movie.
yeah,
Um, Even Signs. I love Signs. I love 90% of The Village. That sort of stuff. Yeah. Evil Dead 2 was another fun, scary movie. Army of Darkness. Army of Darkness trends more in the just sort of action comedy sort of stuff, but it's still got horror elements, like traditional horror elements. So yeah,
I
it's
guess.
I just yeah I want to have fun watching a scary movie. So I don't think shit like Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street are particularly fun. Uh, yeah, anything that's going to make me feel like garbage, I don't have the stomach for. Like I do that to myself all the time enough. I don't need a movie doing that. It's the same reason I can't watch shit like ER and all of these doctor shows and stuff. It's like I those are feel bad shows.
Yeah,
I know it's a switcheroo because House always comes up with the fucking cure at the end. He always has the moment of doing something else unrelated, and then then the light bulb goes off 5 minutes before the end, and he can come in and inject the whatever and make everything okay.
right.
But the other 40 minutes are all just about crushing you and making you feel terrible.
Man, there's so many. Injecting You is a good episode name. Making You Feel Terrible is a good episode name. Um, yeah, but much like the great band Lit, you're your own worst enemy. Like, you don't want to watch things that are going to reinforce how bad you feel. But yeah, like
Yeah.
like I have a system personally. I have a system in November, and maybe it's because Veterans Day is in November. But like I watch like Band of Brothers in November. In
Okay.
December, I watch Christmas movies. I watch all the Harry Potter movies. I watch My Love Actually, get really excited when that time's coming.
Lethal
But
Weapon,
sure, but I don't watch. Yeah, Die Hard.
Home Alone.
But I don't watch. No, only Home Alone 2. But I don't watch like horror movies in October. Like that's not.
I always want to.
Yeah, it's always something that like that could be fun. Like let's like when I'm with my wife, like, oh, let's find a horror movie to watch. But it's just always like it's just lame. Like I just get tired and fall asleep. Like it just doesn't do anything for me.
I keep trying to introduce my 12-year-old to stuff. Almost every night this month I've been like, oh, let's watch blah blah blah. It's like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. Oh, just a bummer.
Yeah.
He's just a bummer, like me, but in a different way.
Yeah, because he can actually bum you out, which is even more of a bummer than being a bummer.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like at like a 2, and you're like, well, it can only go up from here. And then he's like, no, I don't want to hang out with you. So
Here's
you're
your
like,
1, Dad.
eat your cold French fries. Okay, so let's wrap this up with what would you consider your favorite horror genre movie then? What you would consider horror?
Right, my favorite horror movie.
Right. If you had to watch a movie every October in honor of this made-up holiday.
I guess my favorite horror movie, one I wouldn't mind busting out once a year and actually be excited about it. I guess I would pick The Exorcist. Let's go with that.
Okay.
I think it's really well made. I think it's interesting and thought-provoking.
Yeah, so I guess I just, when you were talking about The Exorcist, I thought of one horror movie that I didn't mention that I could actually probably watch and have seen multiple times. It always does a little something for me, and that's Poltergeist.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess it goes along with my, like, I don't believe in ghosts, but it's more believable than, like, Freddy Krueger or Jason. So, like, that falls into that category of, like, because I have lived in places and I have had experiences that I would be like, oh, this is fucking weird and something's not right here. And that's kind of the whole vibe of Poltergeist, just turned up to 11.
Sure.
But I'll still throw Alien as my go-to. I would watch that pretty much anytime. But yeah, maybe a Poltergeist, Exorcist doubleheader.
That goes into the same basket of fun, scary movies as Gremlins. And, yeah. That's a Spielberg-y horror movie. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I must have watched it plenty of times as a kid because I always remember so much about it. Like you remember like the pool filling up with skeletons and shit.
There's so much memorable stuff.
Yeah.
And I am a complete sucker for
Craig T. Nelson.
I was gonna say Joe Beth Williams.
Oh well, then we could watch it together and get off different ways. All right.
But yeah, all the special effects are just great. Great.
All right. So the New Belgium Higher Plain IPA Hazy Imperial, it was tasty, but and maybe it's the extra 1% or whatever, but it's not quite as enjoyable as their other IPAs. But it's not as harsh as the 9.8% Imperial Voodoo Ranger, the original. I still really dig it. Oh, that burp really sold it too. That was a good burp. Tasted good in my mouth. I'm going to give it a 3.5. I really enjoy it. Let me write that down so I don't have to worry about that later.
3.5 is good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, who knows? I had to buy a 6-pack because they didn't have it in a single. So, my opinion by the end of the weekend might change, might go up. But 3.5 for now. Everyone, again, the New Belgium Voodoo Ranger series, I don't know what they do, but they're all pretty solid. Much like my homeboys work on Dark and Bloody, it's available on Amazon.com, or you could have your comic shop order it. So if you go to Vapes and Capes, just tell them when you're buying your melon ball slushy vape flavor, say, I would like to order a copy of Dark and Bloody #1, please. Or if you want to buy a signed copy of Family Tree Volume 1 or #2, you can contact me directly. I'm doing a thing where I'm doing sketches and I'll mail you the trade.
Nice.
It's a good way to get grocery money going. So yeah, check me out. Check Scott out. House of L coming in February. Anything else?
Nah.
All right.
No.
All right. But it's your turn, Scott. Swing away.
Oh, yeah. Good job.
Thanks.
Fuck off, Scott.
Fuck off, Scott.